Today is Friday, November 6, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Georgia. Ooh, huge lead now for Joe Biden. He now leads in Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Trump team, boy, they are trying to go to court, stop everything from being counted. Well, they want to stop Georgia and Pennsylvania. They want to keep counting in Arizona, Nevada, because he's down in both of those states. Now they're trying to go to the Supreme Court to stop any ballots from being received in Pennsylvania. We'll talk with Kristen Clark with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law about all of these legal battles. Also, we'll talk with Georgia State Senator-elect Kim Jackson, Gwinnett County Democratic County Chair Bianca Keaton, and Congressman Hank Jonson about how the Peach State could very well deliver the election to Joe Biden. And in Pennsylvania, former Mayor Michael Nutter joins us to talk about Pennsylvania. And also Black Caucus member Representative Jake Wheatley of Pittsburgh. And I will deconstruct some comments made by BET founder Bob Jonson on CNBC today, where he argued that essentially Donald Trump is better for black people economically than Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Democrats. Y'all want to wait for that one. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, you may have woke up this morning and saw that Joe Biden blew past Donald Trump in Georgia, pretty much giving him the election. Now, if you look at our number here, we show at the bottom of our screen, 264 to 214. So Associated Press, other networks, they have not called Georgia, they have not called Pennsylvania, they have not called Arizona for Joe Biden. But any one of those three states puts him over the top for the presidency. Trump campaign, not happy at all. They are angry. They are sitting here mounting people different places. They've got them gathered different places. I mean, it's all kind of drama because they can't handle what has happened with the voters. Now they're throwing out everything. They're saying, oh my goodness, voter integrity, that there was rampant cheating going on. No evidence whatsoever. Like literally no evidence whatsoever. And so this has been going on the last 48 hours. It's ramping up and they're getting more desperate. They're getting more desperate because as each hour goes by, they aren't making up the lead when it comes to that Joe Biden has. And so they're constantly trying to sow seeds of doubt in this election. But the problem is it's not working. It's not working because voters have indeed spoken. And so what we are doing is focused on, again, what the facts are. And where they stand right now, Biden is leading in all of those different states. Joining us right now is Kristen Clark. She, of course, leads the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Kristen, now all of a sudden the Biden folks want to go, the Trump folks want to go to the Supreme Court, which gave them a glimmer of hope by saying in the previous ruling, saying, hey, come back after the election. So they want to go to Supreme Court to suggest that what they are trying to argue that the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, which is supposed to govern Pennsylvania state laws, they were wrong to extend the dates that ballots could come in because of COVID, saying, no, only the legislature could have done that. And you got Brett Kavanaugh, and you likely have 4 justices. So we'll see if Amy Coney Barrett weighs in on this, who want to argue that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court was wrong. But it's just very interesting, like all of a sudden that a Supreme Court of a state is not responsible for state decisions. Now the feds want to intervene. Just your thoughts about this whole mess.
Um, so I think I heard most of what you said, and what I can say is there is a lot of frivolous litigation happening right now, Roland. A lot of frivolous litigation, but I feel like we can't take it for granted. We have to take these cases seriously and fight until they are dismissed. And so what we're doing right now is last night, along with our partners, we moved and filed an amicus brief in one of these cases pending in Pennsylvania, where they are trying to cancel out certain provisional ballots and cancel out mail ballots where voters got notice of a small error and an opportunity to cure and fix the problem. We know that there are cases filed in Nevada. We know that there's a case at the Supreme Court where at least a handful of justices have indicated we can't decide this issue now, but come back to us later and we might revisit this issue. And that's a case involving Pennsylvania. So we're still fighting tooth and nail, Roland, and we're going to fight until the bitter end. We're going to take these cases for what they are. They are frivolous, but they must be defeated and beat back. And we're also working to make sure that voters who cast a provisional or paper ballot on Tuesday know the steps that they have to take to make sure that those provisional ballots count. Some of the margins in these elections are narrow, and it's not just the presidential election that's up, it's all those races down the ballot. So our work from the very beginning of this election season has been a fight to ensure that every vote counts, and we're going to continue that work until we reach the bitter end. And we know that there's a runoff awaiting us in January in Georgia, and so our work continues. Our work continues, Roland.
The thing that is crazy about this, I mean, they are throwing everything out, and they're walking. At one point, they stood in front of their Christian and lied by saying that Republican observers were not allowed to watch the ballots being counted in Pennsylvania. Then the lawyers going to court admit, yeah, we do have observers there. All right. So, Christian, can you hear me now? What's going on? Guys, if you could find out what's happening so Christian can actually hear me with the questions. So come back to me in a second and let me know if we got that fixed. So folks, just so setting this whole thing up again, where we stand right now is Team Trump is desperate. They're desperate to go to court. Donald Trump said he was going to do this. They want to win this in the courts. They don't want all votes counted. They are trying to desperately invalidate as many votes as possible. That's what they're doing. That's the game that's the game that they're playing right now. And so what we have to understand, is going on here is that they are going to try this over and over and over again. All right, we have Kristen Clark there. Christian, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, here's a perfect example of what we're talking about. They stood in front of cameras and lied, saying observers were not allowed to watch the counting in Philadelphia. But when their attorneys went to court, where you can't lie to the judge, they admitted the observers were actually watching the ballots being counted.
Exactly. And it's an incredibly transparent process. There are poll watchers, there are authorized individuals who are overseeing these counts, and we need to step back and let election officials do their job. We know that there were operatives who had a page up on Facebook recruiting people to go out and cause chaos, disruption, and obstruction during these count operations. These are individuals who have no business and no authority to be at these counts. They're protesting. They're causing fear for the people who are, working day and night to count the historic number of ballots that have been cast in this historic election. So in my view, it's not over until it's over. We reached out to Twitter yesterday and told them that we want them to suspend Donald Trump's Twitter account because right now he is spreading disinformation about our election in ways that prove harmful to the public. We were glad to see that Facebook pulled down this page that was being used to recruit operatives to go out and cause chaos during the count operations. But if you dig deep, the count is being carried out in the most transparent way possible. You can literally watch some of the live feeds while these counts are happening. In many states, there are equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans overseeing the counts, and we just need to let them finish their job. And they're getting pretty close. This was an election where we said that patience would be necessary because of the historic numbers of mail ballots. And so we're going to keep working and keep fighting until we reach the bitter end. We know that President Trump, part of his goal was to go to court and, claim that this was a fraudulent election. And so we are intervening in those cases. We're weighing in when we can, and we're fighting to make sure that we get a fair outcome. And we're fighting to make sure that Black voters who participated in historic numbers in this election, particularly through mail ballots, we're fighting to make sure that their voices are heard, Roland.
And look, I mean, organizations like yours, y'all were prepared for this moment. Y'all knew this was coming.
We were. And let me tell you, we drafted the court papers. We vetted lawyers. We were ready to go into court at the state level, at the federal level. We knew this was coming. And so we have been ready, and we are weighing in where it is appropriate for us to weigh in. We're watching what's happening at the Supreme Court, and we will fight until the bitter end. And I just want folks who are watching to know that if you cast a provisional ballot on Tuesday, that there may be steps that you have to take to ensure that your ballot counts. I want people to know that if you're watching and you cast a mail ballot and they sent you notice about a minor error, that you should follow through and take steps to make sure that your mail ballot counts. We want, at the end of the day, for every eligible voter who participated in this historic election to be on record, and to have their ballot cast and be a part of that final count.
All right, then. Kristen Clark, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. We really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks so much. And call 866-OUR-VOTE. We're working 7 days a week right now to help voters. 866-687-8683. Thank you, Roland.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, folks. It has been it's been a crazy day. It's been a crazy day watching all this stuff play out, watching the back and forth. Of course, people waiting for the count. But let me tell you something. One of the best things we heard today, y'all, this was the mayor of Philadelphia who had this to say to Donald Trump.
I think what the president needs to do is, frankly, put his big boy pants on. He needs to acknowledge the fact that he lost, and he needs to congratulate the winner, just as Jimmy Carter did, just as George H.W. Bush did, and frankly, just as Al Gore did. And stop this and let us move forward as a country. And that's my feeling. I doubt he'll listen to me, but that's it.
But we know that's not what he's going to do, because he's too arrogant to do so. In fact, just a few moments ago, let me show you what he actually tweeted. Because now all of a sudden he wants to have a different sort of tone, but forget it, we ain't listening to it. So watch this here. So look at these tweets. 6 hours ago, with the attack by the radical left Dems on the Republican Senate, the presidency becomes even more important. Then 5 hours ago, where are the missing military ballots in Georgia? What happened to them? Okay, Donald, let me help you out, Donald. Military ballots are mailed in. Your post office screwed it up. So stuff is getting delivered late because of DeJoy. And the military ballots are going to be counted. Oh, I'm sorry. Why are you begging for military ballots? Because Biden is leading you by almost 2,000 votes in Georgia. And apparently there's some 8,300 military ballots going to be coming in, and you're desperate. You're hoping that those military ballots gives you the lead back in Georgia. But y'all watch this one here. Listen to the tweet he sent out 28 minutes ago. Joe Biden should not wrongfully claim the office of the president. I can make that claim also. Legal proceedings are just now beginning. Dude, just stop. Just stop it. Just stop it. But again, the incessant whining by Donald Trump is just hilarious to me, because what he wants, y'all, what he wants is, he knows what's coming. He knows what's coming. He knows he's lost. And he's desperate. He's lost and he's desperate. What he doesn't want is for this to happen. In fact, I'm going to do this here. Joe Biden did address the nation today. It wasn't all about the election stuff. It really was also about COVID-19. This is him and Senator Kamala Harris in Delaware.
Good afternoon, folks. Senator Harris and I just completed briefings on both COVID and the economic crisis facing this nation. And we're reminded again of the severity of this pandemic. Cases are on the rise nationwide, and we're nearing 240,000 deaths due to COVID. And our hearts go out to each and every family that has lost a loved one to this terrible disease. In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world. And we continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon. So thank you all for your patience, but we have to count the votes. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That was Joe Biden speaking today to the nation. The grown child in the White House, all he's been missing in action today, all he's been doing is just tweeting and all kind of crazy stuff all day. I mean, that's what we're sort of used to. Our panel is Rob Richardson. He's the host of Disruption Now podcast. Michael Imhotep hosts the African History Network show. Dr. Niambe Carter, Howard University Department of Political Science. Glad to have all three of you here. It's very interesting watching all of this play out, Niambe, because, again, they're desperate. They're flailing. They are trying to cast doubt. And also, frankly, they're angry that black people, it's black people who delivered the fatal blow to Donald Trump. He is railed for 4 years, calling the voters in Philadelphia corrupt. And it's killing him that Philadelphia came in hard against him. It destroys his ego that Detroit, black Detroit, came in hard against him. It's killing him that black Atlanta is going against him. It's just killing him that black Milwaukee put that final nail in his coffin as well. That's what's killing Donald Trump and all of his MAGA supporters.
Absolutely. But he's been telling us for months that this is exactly what he was going to do, that he was going to dispute every vote. He called mail-in ballots illegal votes. He's been telegraphing for months that he knew he was going to lose. I mean, he started this race defeated, quite frankly. And it's sour grapes now. And you're exactly right. There's nothing worse to a person who has sort of created their altar to white supremacy to finally see that it was the very same people that he despised potentially take power away from him. That's killing Donald Trump. That's killing his supporters. And, you know, their tantrum, unfortunately, brings with it real threats along with it. I mean, these people are out here armed to the teeth. They're showing up to places with guns. And so it's not just, you know, that these people are having a fit in the street. They're having a fit in the street with lots of weapons and real threats. And really, it seems like in many cases, law enforcement who are just standing idly by and letting these people have, you know, full-on meltdowns and spin themselves into butter. But I think, you know, it was especially sweet to see it happen this way and to see that these black cities and these black folks turn out and put him out, quite frankly.
It's just laughable to watch these folks Rob, because they can't handle losing well. The thing is, I mean, Hillary Clinton showed far more dignity when she lost in 2016. John McCain when he lost. But see, here's the deal. I keep telling people, I don't need Donald Trump to concede.
Right.
The votes are the votes, Rob.
Yeah.
So
Agree.
I don't need Donald Trump to invite Joe Biden to the White House, do the customary sit down. I get why people want that, but we know the man-child is not going to do that because that's called decency.
That's called basic decency. And you're right, he's not going to do it, but it would be very helpful for the nation for him to do it because he is a lot of things. He's a man-child. He's a whiner in chief. He's also the greatest, I believe, con man and marketer to ever be in that position because the sad fact is he got a ton of votes and there's a lot of people that still believe whatever they want to believe that comes out of his mouth. He has a cult personality following him, and why this is dangerous is because people believe it. I mean, there are people that are, and it goes beyond education. There are people that have some education and still want to make themselves believe that somehow they're being cheated, that somehow black people have the power to hold secret votes and keep away votes, and suddenly we can just turn the whole election. I mean, suddenly we can do that, but we can't get reparations. Like, I can't figure it out. So, like, if we can do that, but we can't get reparations, I don't know. Like, we have this secret plot that we're controlling things. It's not happening that way. But whatever narrative he tells them, they believe. And as Dr. Carter said, it is extremely dangerous because they are prone. They already want to be angry. They already want to find a reason to blame someone. And he's using the common denominator of fear to drive them to be irrational, to make it feel like somebody's out to get them, that everybody's against them, big tech's against them, media is against them, black people are against them, Latino people everybody's against them. No, actually, it's Donald Trump that's against you. He's just a great con man and a marketer.
Michael, you got this Louisiana Congressman Clay Higgins who released this video. If y'all want to see Cray Cray, watch this fool, y'all. This is a person who's a sitting member of Congress.
Listen to me, America. Donald J. Trump, President Trump, has been an anointed blessing to our nation. I realize I'm compassionate about feeling the heart of many Americans that disagree, but listen to what I'm telling you. This is a man that did not have to do what he has done. He did not have to serve as our president, commander-in-chief. He's living the life of a billionaire. Would you have done it? I think not. Our nation, right now, and I have inside data, this election is compromised. Our president is not compromised. I stand with him, whether anybody likes it or not. I'm telling you right now, is it many Americans? Listen, we don't want to fight. We do not want a fight. We love our brothers and sisters. Disagree though we may, including serious disagreement. None of us want to fight, man. However, I have to tell you that this election our president won this election.
What's Michael, the Blair Witch Project video?
I'm like, what? Did he not pay his
I have inside information. You're a sitting member of Congress.
Ooh. Don't let it ever be said that you can't achieve. That man's in Congress, just so you know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If he had any information, he would have released it.
Thank you.
I mean, come on. This is the dumbest thing. I'm sitting there looking. I'm like, okay, did he not pay his light bill?
I have inside information that this election is compromised. But I ain't gonna share it with nobody because I'm making me a Blair Witch sequel video.
Well, you know, if the election was compromised, maybe it would not have been compromised if Marsha Blackburn, senator from Tennessee, had not blocked 3 election integrity bills in the U.S. Senate using the unanimous consent rule. Okay, so if you think it was compromised, go talk to the Republicans and go talk to Moscow Mitch McConnell, who refused to pass bills to protect the U.S. election. But you know, brother, this is so. I'm glad you showed that because people have to understand. So Rob talked about reparations, right? People have to understand reparations is a legislative process. It has to pass through both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. You got stupid asses like this, okay, who are U.S. congressmen, and these are the type of people that they're going to vote on reparations. So we got to understand it takes 218 votes to get any bill passed in the House of Representatives. People like that got to be voted out of office. See, this is an example of how elections have consequences, all right? And it's good that Democrats maintain the House of Representatives, and we'll see what the final margin is. But you got to understand, a lot of these policies and things that we want, dumbasses like this vote on it.
Right.
So,
right,
brother, I was up to 5 a.m. this morning watching the returns and watching the results. I got off the air doing my show 1 a.m. And brother, this is a civics lesson. This is a history lesson. You had these idiots in downtown Detroit at the TCF Center. I live about 3 or 4 minutes away from the TCF Center. They were down there protesting. Donald Trump supporters, stop the vote. Now you also had other counter protesters, many of them white, saying count every vote. I want people to know that also. Okay, but Donald Trump hurts his argument. He doesn't have a legal argument.
Right.
But if he did, he hurts it by saying keep counting in Arizona, stop counting Michigan, stop counting in Pennsylvania.
Right. It makes no sense. Now, if y'all want to hear some more tears, I have some more tears for you. Rick Santorum decided to give some advice on CNN.
Oh, Lord.
Here we go.
And this is one of the things I'm just give people time.
Yes.
I mean, he's just found out that he's, probably not going to be the president of the United States here. And I mean, you could say what was in the cards, but you don't know until the votes are counted. I mean, listen to John King. You don't know.
Schedule. It's democracy's schedule. It's not Donald Trump's.
Give his supporters and everybody time to figure this out.
With Hillary Clinton, that's what.
Which is why, David, thank you for the comment that saying we'll take trespassers out of the White House. It's not time to.
I agree
that
with
kind of
that.
rhetoric is
I
not
agree
going to be helpful. This is a very emotional time. Had either side under this election, it would have. I mean, that's why they were. No offense, that's why they're boarding up places in across the country because they were afraid of if Joe Biden was going to win by 10 points and he loses, fraud. I mean, this would be the cry of the other side too. Let the process work.
I remember
give
when Hillary.
people space to work through this.
I remember when Hillary. I'm just agreeing with you. I remember people wanted Hillary Clinton to come out that night. And she needed a minute, and her supporters needed a minute, and she came out the next day. I don't think they were looking at that same situation with Donald Trump. The fear that people have, which maybe you can speak to, is that this isn't about him kind of getting himself together to come out and make a responsible speech, that he just is going to be a bitter ender.
Well, so give him time. He's just finding out. You really need to give him time. He has to gather himself. Rick Santorum, shut the hell up. Trump came out yesterday with a batshit crazy news conference.
Yeah, that's who he is.
Dude, I don't want to hear all this. Give him time and give his supporters time. They've got to sort through this. It's their feelings. Y'all, they ain't how this roll. When your ass lose in politics, your ass lose.
Happened to me.
I mean, look, I'm just kidding. Jackie Lacey. Jackie Lacey, black woman who should have lost for district attorney, L.A. This was her today.
Kiss through mask. Thank you. I congratulate George Gascon and his team on their expected victory. There are still about 791,000 votes to count, but my consultants tell me that while I may close the gap between the two of us, I will not be able to make up enough based on the trending of the ballots to win this election. I am so thankful to God.
It's a longer video, but that's what you do. But this whole, we got it. Y'all, Donald Trump is a child who's in his feelings. He's in his feelings. And he's really in his feelings about what's been happening there in the state of Georgia. Now, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said today that the presidential race in the state remains too close to call. He added that out of about 5 million votes cast, the margin will be within a few thousand. With a margin that small, there will be a likely recount in Georgia. Joining me right now is Georgia State Senator-elect Kim Jackson, Bianca Keaton, chair of the Gwinnett County Democratic Party, and Georgia State Representative Hank Jonson. First of all, glad to have all of you on the show. Congressman Jonson, I'll start with you. It has to be great that the place where Congressman John Lewis represented this nation for so many years could very well be the state that puts Joe Biden over the top after Donald Trump trashed Congressman Lewis left and right and didn't even have the decency to pay respects to him when he passed away. Karma.
Yeah, I tell you, it's poetic justice. I know John Lewis is looking down, admiring the work that was done to produce this result in Georgia. You know, Biden has 253 electoral votes right now, with 16 more coming from Georgia. That would put him right at 269. And he would need just one more vote. And, you know, it's very sweet that Georgia has been converted. Georgia has flipped from Republican for the last 28 years, voting for Republican presidents. And now we stand on the cusp of Georgia going blue for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And leading the South, it's the new South, being led not by North Carolina, not by South Carolina, not by Texas, but being led by Georgia, not Florida, not Virginia, but Georgia. And it's really poetic justice. It's a sweet night. We have elected a president. We have, held on to our majority in the U.S. House, and we have expanded our opportunity to bring home a Senate where we elect 2 U.S. senators on January 5th, which will take the House to a 50-50 majority. And then we will have an African-American vice president in place to break the tie. It's very sweet.
Bianca, again, when you see what is happening here, a lot of work was put in to turn Georgia into a competitive state, to make this a reality. And the thing I think that really jumps out here is that I keep telling people, look, regular folk did the work. And what I keep saying is black folk, we can't wait for a party or a candidate to mobilize and organize our people. We have to do it ourselves.
I absolutely agree with that sentiment. In fact, after having worked on Stacey Abrams' campaign in 2018, it was my first campaign, and I just really wanted to be a part of history at that time and to show up for Stacey. And then pushing into or towards 2020, I had a central question: how do we win without Stacey Abrams on the ballot? And in many ways, that meant that we had to become Stacey, and we had to continue the legacy of the work that she began. And it was work that began before her gubernatorial campaign in 2017, 2018. It began in 2010, when Democrats lost big time statewide in Georgia. And my goal as party chair, which I never had any aspirations to be party chair or to really be part of the party infrastructure, was really to make our party look more like Gwinnett and to help us recruit candidates that look like Gwinnett and to draw out the vote. And that's what we did.
Kim, one of the things, though, we're now looking at is, look, it is still, the margin is still extremely small. You have military votes that will be coming in as to be counted as well. Donald Trump is already begging for those military votes because and if anyone knows, let me know. Last I heard, it was supposedly around 8,000 military votes that were expected there in Georgia.
Yeah, 8,400, 8,420 to be specific.
So Kim, Donald Trump is hoping desperately that he picks up 70, 80% of those military votes to put him back in the lead there in Georgia.
Well, I just checked the numbers right before I came on, and we are 4,000 votes ahead right now. So even if he gets 80%, I mean, the numbers are not in his favor. The trend is clear. Georgia is going to elect our next president, and he will be Joe Biden. So I'm thrilled, I'm excited, and it has been the work of so many people, but particularly Black women in Georgia who have made this happen.
The thing that jumps out, and I saw someone's posted some polling data that showed that there in Georgia, 17% of Black men voted for Donald Trump. Okay, but here's the thing that I think is important, Congressman Jonson, that we can't let's just be frank, white media get us caught up in that, because the two groups out of everybody in America who voted against Donald Trump for Joe Biden, the two highest groups were Black women and Black men. Black men outvoted Latino men, white men. They outvoted white women, Latina. So again, I know folks want to harp on the 17%, but my deal is you can't ignore the 83.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the turnout, the number of voters who came out was astronomical. It was like 4.1 million voters who voted in 2016 in the 2016 general election in Georgia. In 2000, 4 years later, we'll see about a 900,000 vote jump. And that turnout is concentrated in areas where Black and brown people live in Georgia. And so I'm very happy about the turnout. The fact that we did have a higher percentage of Black males voting for Trump is not to be taken lightly, because they did good work at converting some people to their view. And that view is basically based on anger and misinformation. So we've got a lot of educating to do among our Black males about what has really been the state of political affairs in this country over the previous 3 or 4 decades. And we can't hold grudges about stuff that happened back in the 90s. We're getting ready to go into 2021, and it's a new day. And too many of us are angry and stuck on what happened, 30 years ago. And we've got educating to do to try to uncloud some of these minds of some of our brothers out here. I'm on a text line or chain with a group of black males who are Trump supporters, and they are just downhearted. They themselves are out here talking about violence. I mean, they are coming close with their rhetoric to inciting violence. And it's very troubling what's in the minds of some of these black males.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help when you have it doesn't help Kim, when you have an actual elected official in Georgia who's black saying this type of stuff on national television. This is State Rep Vernon Jones.
Addressing issues in the state of Georgia for every American. And so I want to say to the press, so you can get the word out right now, this is my last point. We ain't bullshitting. Stacey Abrams, you want a fair fight? Bring it on. Bring it on. You've been like a vacuum cleaner, getting all of this underground money. We need to see where it's coming from and how you're spending it. But I know one thing, you're spending it on suppressing black people and other people. You're suppressing them. You know how you suppress? Because you're intimidating people for having their individual thoughts and their individual concerns. And because they don't support your agenda, you don't want them to vote. You don't want them to come out and speak their minds. What you're trying to do is keep them on that plan.
There's so many lies in there. We ain't even got that much damn time to break it all down. But that's...
Well, you know what? Earlier in his comments, he made a comment about we can see the...
I know. I have it right here. Go back to my iPad, please.
Start shooting.
Hold on.
Representative Vernon Johnson. I'm a Southerner, and we believe in fighting. Yes, sir. This fight is just getting started. We're starting now to see the white of their eyes, and we get ready to start shooting.
I mean, even the crowd was sort of like, did this fool just say we're going to start shooting? Kim, go ahead.
Right. I mean, so let's be clear. First of all, he will soon be the former representative. Vernon Jones does not represent Black Georgia in any way, shape, or form. So I think he has found his way of getting a few moments of fame, and he's gotten those. And we are so glad that he is moving on. And honestly, gratefully, he's being replaced by a Black woman. So once again, we see Black women stepping up and saying, no more, we will not tolerate that kind of rhetoric. We will not be represented by those kind of people. Here we are.
To the point, Bianca, to the point that Congressman Jonson was making about the misinformation, that is critical. But I'll be perfectly honest with you. So on that point, it's a couple of things. One, Democrats were awful, as far as I was concerned, with direct messaging. For instance, I still don't understand why Joe Biden, Senator Kamala Harris, and Democratic Party did not take credit for the First Step Act when Democrats passed it in the House. It was improved in the Senate. I mean, they literally just gave Trump the whole runway. That's just one. The other thing, though, is one of the reasons why, and I make this point directly to the Biden campaign and Democratic Party, is you also got to spend more resources on Black media that's reaching Black people. That's smaller outlets as well that they're listening to, digital outlets, websites. Because I spent on Friday 1 hour and 11 minutes on the phone with a Black record producer who gave me every single Black talking point from Donald Trump, and I was knocking down lies left and right because he repeated it so often that they believed it. And I think people say, oh, we're not going to respond to that stuff. No, I'm just a firm believer. You can't let lies stand still. And I think over the next 60 days, there's about to be a whole bunch of lies on Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. And is the Democratic Party prepared to swing back hard on those lies and to lay down a narrative that speaks to those black men and to the plus 4 points of black women who voted for Donald Trump? Because it was 95% for Hillary and went down to 91% for Trump. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it is my absolute hope that the Democratic Party will be prepared and ready to respond to these malicious attacks that come from the Republicans and specifically Donald Trump. These attacks have been very disgusting, and I do expect them to continue. I would like to see, we talk about our dear sister Michelle Obama and her mantra, when they go low, we go high. And there are a lot of us that are prepared to do what needs to be done.
I disagree with that. I appreciate her comment. I'm a firm believer. When they go low, you hit their ass in the ankles.
Well, and that's exactly my point.
Cool. Thank you very much. I just want to make sure you and I on the same page.
We here.
Yeah, we here. Cool. We here. Good.
We here. Okay, so I actually just saw one of my dear friends from Capitol Hill post when they go low, we want drama, and it had a picture of RuPaul, like she ready, and that's how we need to be in attacking these lies that are coming out. But I also take a little bit of issue with the amount of burden and responsibility that is placed on the backs of Black bodies. How much more can the Democratic Party expect out of Black voters? We do need to be making investments in the Black community, and I do expect that we will get all of that and some with this Biden-Harris ticket. And I'm very much so looking forward to that, because they actually had a plan for Black America, contrary to the two-page pamphlet that was the Platinum Plan, which was just a few talking points there.
It was a trash plan. It was trash. I'm gonna deal with that a little bit later in the show when I break down these comments Bob Johnson made today on CNBC. But go ahead.
Yeah, and to the issue of Vernon Jones, like nobody's paying Vernon any attention. Like he's going out the door, and he's had a mile of issues, to follow him. So as far as I'm concerned, he's looking for a career change, that he's hoping he can pick up something with the Republican Party, because they like to have and exploit and create Black caricatures. Those people are not representative of the Black population at large, and we don't stand for that.
Right.
What I would like to see is to the Democratic Party to do more work in other communities. And that is where I think some of the work needs to be done, because the Latino community, the Asian community, like the opportunities that we missed there in this election, I'm hoping that we can hone in on that and figure out a way to deliver not just words, but actual, solid policy, and that for Black Americans as well.
Congressman Jonson, I got to go to you. Politico, that was a call that Democrats, y'all all were on. I'll assume you were on that particular call. Go to my iPad, Henry. This is the headline from Politico. Dem leaders warn liberal rhetoric could blow Georgia races. There's a quote here from Congressman Jim Clyburn saying, if we're going to run on Medicare for all, defund the police, socialize medicine, we're not going to win. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, said that to win in Georgia, what the issue should be. This is what I said in a tweet to her. And I'm just being very frank. And let's just also be clear, Nancy Pelosi, her office, they're horrible when it comes to putting her on Black media. We've been asking for 2 years. The last 8 weeks, they haven't come on. She finally went on Joe Madison's show. He's been asking for years. And so I made it perfectly clear, and I know that different members of the CBC have personally called her to tell her of this. But Nancy Pelosi needs to come do Black media and stop doing MSNBC and CNN all day. So, Congressman, if you can pass that message to her as well, I would appreciate that. But here's my problem here. Y'all all three from Georgia. No disrespect, but y'all don't need Nancy Pelosi telling y'all what works for Georgia voters. I think what should happen here, Congressman Jonson, is that Nancy Pelosi and all the Democrats who are in D.C. need to step the hell back, let the people in Georgia who know that state well and their voters lay out the game plan for how to win these two seats, these two Senate seats. So that is Stacey Abrams and others. Let them be the generals. And so Nancy needs to take a seat back and say, Georgia Democrats, y'all did y'all thing. Y'all know what's best.
Well, you know what? Every time we have these family phone calls, it's like a family meeting. Excuse my.
It's all right. It's all right. Go ahead. It's all right.
But
just make sure that wasn't Nancy calling. But go ahead.
Well, it's not Nancy. But as soon as we have our family conversations, then there's always someone who leaks information selectively to the press, and that selective leaking comes from people who have an axe to grind against Nancy for whatever reason, but it does a disservice to our caucus because they mischaracterize the contents of our communications. And so I'm going to take a little issue with the context that you made your comments in.
Okay. So go ahead. So she didn't say that. Go ahead and clear it up. Go ahead, go ahead.
So Nancy is not. At no time during that call did Nancy talk about any message that should be propounded in Georgia for our Senate elections. And in fact, she took an opposite opinion on, how. So in other words, there were people, when you have a meeting like that right after the election, and we suffered some losses, and those losses, by the way, if you look at which Democrats lost their seats, first of all, we had 31 seats to defend that we won in 2018 that Trump had won in 2016. So we flipped 31 seats, and we had to defend those 31 seats in Trump districts. And we were successful in 70% of those races, but some of those were some tough districts. And so now when you have some losses like that and people leave, young members, and then you have other new members who are frustrated and frightened because they just eked by with their win. And then they start talking about what progressives have said that drew out the voters who came and elected a new vice president and a new president. I mean, those were progressive voices and voters who came out because of the agitation of progressives in Congress. But then you have moderates and conservatives, they're young. Or when I say young, I mean they're newly elected.
Right. The Democratic Party has a much larger tent than the Republicans.
And so they start complaining about, the fact that they're losing some of their friends who came to Congress with them. And you have to give them an opportunity to vent. And so when they vent, then you come back and let them understand the true reality. And I believe that is what Nancy Pelosi did yesterday and our leaders. But of course, you had a lot of opinions being shared in that conversation, which should not be public knowledge at all. And when it becomes public knowledge, it gets mischaracterized and construed.
Well, here's the deal. Look, if you're on a phone call, it's gonna get out. So I mean, that's just the whole deal there.
Yeah.
But I still believe, Kim. Again, my firm belief is this here, because it always happens. It happens when a Democrat wins a statewide primary, then the D.C. consultants come in with their view on what should happen. This is the deal. Folks in Georgia, mostly black, they did the groundwork for the last 6 years to make what happened this year reality. I've already made the call. I've already said to the black folks in Georgia, we gonna bring my show to Georgia as much as possible in November and December. Y'all tell us where we need to go. See, because again, I think y'all know best where the votes are. There's a deadline on December 7th to register folks to vote. I would think y'all know where the voters who need to get registered are, where the resources should go. That's who I'm listening to win the Ossoff and Warnock race, Kim.
Well, you know what? You got Bianca Keaton on this call.
I know. No, she gonna talk in a minute, but I'm gonna go to Kim and then Bianca. Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And it's the jobs that need to be going to Georgians as well. I am tired of people coming from all across this nation and setting up camp here in Georgia who don't know a damn thing about Georgia, but telling us what to do. There are plenty of community organizers and activists and people who have worked on campaigns who can do the work in Georgia. And so the Georgians need those jobs. Those jobs need to go to Georgians, and we need to be the voice of the strategy and the strategizers. It's absolutely essential. And so, Roland, I'm with you. You are absolutely right.
Bianca, look, they're already saying 100 million is likely going to pour in the next 2 months on both sides. I want to make sure it's black political consultants, it's black pollsters, it's black ad agencies who are handling the media buys. That's what I'm saying has to also happen. And again, folk not from Georgia listen to y'all on what the game plan is to win those 2 Senate seats.
Okay, well, this is one that I kind of have to take a breath before I jump in and answer, because it's one of those things that, you know, if you're going to have expectations of the black community, you better be putting investments in black organizers, just like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
One of the remarkable things that Stacey Abrams did with her campaign is she invested in people who looked like Georgia. For the first time, we had trans people, we had black people in like really heavy, serious leadership roles on a campaign being heard at the table, and not just for representation for the sake of representation, but actually for a more substantive, steering of how that campaign moved here. And it wasn't just black; it was everything. And if I might say, I believe that Gwinnett County really is the center of what all of that coalition's work across the state of Georgia is comprised of. I mean, we've got rural, we've got heavy AAPI, we've got heavy Latino population, we got a lot of black people here, we got a lot of suburban, there's so much here. And I think that Gwinnett County needs to be the first stop for every one of these campaigns, because there's a certain amount of work, a certain amount of inroads that we're going to make in areas like DeKalb and Fulton. But if we're going to bring out new voters who have a higher likelihood of voting, those voters are going to be right here in Gwinnett County. And so I want to see all of our communities invested in, and I don't want any one of our communities to feel taken advantage of, but I'm definitely going to advocate for black staff, for black leadership, and our black candidates.
And I'm just gonna say this last thing, and I'm being straight up, Congressman Hank Johnson. I'm expecting you and Congressman Scott and Congressman Bishop to let them also those PACs as well. I expect y'all to be asking them, hey, who are the black folks y'all got working on here? Who are the black ad agencies? Are y'all buying black media? Because they're gonna be out there asking for money. And again, if we carried them over the line when it came to November 3rd, damn it, we better reap the benefits financially when it comes to the runoff, because they're gonna be expecting us to carry them over the line as well.
Oh, they're gonna need the black and brown, and they're gonna need blacks, Latinx. They're going to need the Asians, the young Asians. They're going to need the right-thinking white folks in Georgia. And guess where those votes are concentrated, Roland? Right here in the Atlanta metropolitan area, which is predominantly black. And I will tell you, the new Georgia looks like Gwinnett County. That's why it's so important that when you come, I would like for you to come to Gwinnett County. I represent a sliver of and a substantial sliver of Gwinnett County. And I'd love for you to come out and be a part of that community. And
we're going to be there.
Awareness out there.
No, I'm just letting y'all know. We're going to be there.
I saw you here for Biden last week.
Well, actually, no. I was actually there for Warnock. And then when Biden announced he was coming to Georgia, that blew the whole plan up. We were going to do a whole 2-hour show built around Pastor Warnock, because we did the exact same thing in Columbia, South Carolina for Jamie. The next day, I did the same thing for Senator Gary Peters in Detroit. And then that Sunday, I went to Mississippi for Mike Espy. So the Biden thing blew it up. But I'm telling y'all right now, we are bringing Roland Martin Unfiltered to Georgia. We gonna be there a whole lot in December. We are focused on talking to our people, getting folks out there to register December 7th, to vote when the early voting deadline, to also then, of course, drop those ballots by mail, and then vote on January 5th. I've been talking to people. I've been talking to entertainers. I've been talking to activists. Everybody is focused. Look, everybody else counting. We can't count. That's what they do, okay? Our focus is going to be on winning those 2 seats. Democrats right now have 48 seats. If they win those 2 in Georgia, it's a 50-50 tie. Senator Kamala Harris breaks the tie, which means Chuck Schumer is the Senate Majority Leader and not Mitch McConnell. And that's what our focus is. And so we are making it clear to all the folk, we got to go hard or go home. So that's what our plan is. So I'm just letting all 3 of y'all know we're going to be there.
I wasn't surprised to see you when you were here, because I see you just about everywhere else I go in the country.
That's right.
Whenever there's something happening, Roland Martin is going to be there.
I want to make sure you also visit South Georgia, Albany,
Come on now.
Columbus.
Come on.
Listen. I ain't say we coming to Atlanta, Bianca. I said we coming to Georgia.
Here we go.
Yes.
So, yes.
Gotta go down.
I trust me. I got fans all over Georgia. I've already said we gonna hit different parts of Georgia with our show. I'm just letting y'all know. So when y'all get that phone call, y'all see a 469 number. That's me calling. All right.
Okay. We're gonna have the list ready for you.
All right.
We'll have the list.
And it's a continuing struggle to get folks to do right by us and our businesses. And so I can assure you, Roland, that we won't let this opportunity pass.
Okay.
We're going to leverage. We're going to leverage every asset that we have to try to pull down what needs to be pulled down so it can flow throughout our communities.
All right. Let's do it.
Bottom out.
Congressman Jonson, Bianca, Kim, I appreciate it. Thanks to all 3 of you. We'll be chatting soon. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Roland.
Got to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk Pennsylvania with a couple of folks there, including former Mayor Michael Nutter. I'll bring my panel back as well. Then wait till I show y'all some comments that Bob Johnson made on CNBC. I sort of take issue with some of those. I shall do one of my famous deconstructions right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Voting don't mean anything. What's gonna happen if you don't? Give me the next step. What's replacing it? Where's your voice being heard at? How do you put your grievances out in front? How do you put forth your ideas if you don't vote on it? Tell me. Now I want to know if it don't work. Then tell me what will work. You have nothing. You have nothing. I think you should vote. Historically, a lot of blood on that vote. You should vote.
And there are a lot of people, they don't know if they can. They don't know what to do, how to do it, where to do it. They get, all these documents and pamphlets in the mail, but they don't really understand how to dig through and figure it all out. So I think, the solution, because I'm all about solutions, is figuring out a way to reintroduce that into the school system. And I think, getting people together who are like-minded, right? If you don't know exactly what's happening, I think the first thing is don't be ashamed of that. Don't be ashamed to say, I don't really know what that means. I don't know what that term means. I don't know what this politician stands for. Even if everyone's talking about it, people are scared to get laughed at. Now, I'm the queen of no shame, as we know.
Yes, we know.
Hi, I'm Kim Burrell.
Hi, I'm Carl Payne.
Hey, everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, y'all. Trump's lead narrows in Pennsylvania as he races to the courts to the courts to stop the final ballots. The race there is too close to call. In a moment, we'll be talking with a couple of folks out of Pennsylvania, but I'm going to bring back my panel. Nyambe, I'm going to start with you on the point I was just making there. Again, I get what Congressman Jonson said. I saw the story. They're talking about what Democrats should run. I'm serious. Bottom line, ignore all the people out of D.C. You got to win Georgia. You ain't got to win AOC's district. You don't have to win Connor Lamb's district. You have to win the state of Georgia. The campaigns of Ossoff and Warnock have to be constructed around what Georgians want, not anybody else. And here's the deal. If Warnock and Ossoff take some positions that are counter to, let me say it, white progressives, to the white progressives, shut the hell up. Be quiet. Like George and Charlton, he just sat here and said, if progressives want to get serious, moving Joe Biden to the left, the first thing they should do is tell Joe Biden to drop the extradition of Julian Assange from the UK. I said, man, don't nobody give a shit about Julian Assange. I said, how the hell is that first? I'm like, that's
not even 10th.
I said, that ain't first.
He is. But this is the importance of having local people making the decisions about what makes sense for their state and their localities. And I think often we think that if we have the big budgets and we have these people coming in, they'll tell us something we don't already know. These people don't know Georgia. They don't know the difference between Augusta or Atlanta. They just think it's a place, and it's a place like any other place. And what works in Georgia is not going to work in New York. It's not going to work in Massachusetts. And I think this is the important part that you were stressing last segment, which is local people who do the day in, day out organizing, who look like the people of this state, who talk like the people of this state, who know what issues move these people. They need to be the ones making the decisions, and everybody else needs to just come with their open pocketbook and their mouths closed and their ears open. And maybe they would learn to stop losing once in a while. And I agree with you, this idea that what is making people move in DC or New York or anywhere else is kind of a one size fits all for the entire party, which is extraordinarily diverse and has very different needs. I think it's a losing strategy every time. And if they don't learn anything, they need to learn that you got to pay attention to the people, and you got to pay attention to the Black folks in these communities, most importantly, because they're the people that are doing the work, and they're the people that are motivating people to show up for you time after time, even when you don't deserve it. And I think that's going to be the consistent message. Mouth shut, ears open, and keep those pocketbooks open and fund these people and employ these people to actually make the decisions that make sense for their home states.
Look, here's the deal for me, Rob. Okay, on this call, Abigail Spanberger, she was crying, and also the woman down in Florida, they up there crying because they lost. Here's the thing I keep trying to explain to people. Like all this stuff, we can't run on this, we can't run on that. This real simple. The Democratic Party's tent is larger than the Republican Party's tent. And so there are Democrats who appealed by Medicare for all. There are Democrats who understand actually what defund the police means. There are Democrats who understand that. The problem that people also got to recognize, again, both sides, is that you have gerrymandered districts. So you got Democrats in Florida, in Texas, in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, who are running in districts drawn by Republicans that are borderline red districts. And so, perfect example, Sanford Bishop in Georgia could not take the same positions as John Lewis, of course, or David Scott, or Hank Johnson, because he's black, he's in the CBC, but the makeup of Bishop's district is different than that of Lewis. So we can't say, Sam Bishop, why you don't believe in this? Fool, because my district, the 700,000 in my district ain't the same 700,000 in his district. And so there's no one size fit all. So and I get Congressman Clyburn's remarks there, but sorry, Congressman, what might work here ain't going to work here, but give people the flexibility to say, I disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you need to give people flexibility, but I'll say at the same time, from a different point of view, and I agree with a lot of what you said, I want to hit on particularly what has to happen when we talk about us being included. You hit on it, but also from the consultant point of view, I can tell you how they did their messaging was one size fits all. They hired the same polling firm, and I will tell you what the Trump administration understood a little bit better. They micro-targeted in an emotional way Black men and who they were trying to get. And though Biden won, I do think there was some margins where it wasn't just Georgia. It was some places Black men went 20%. And they were talking to Black men in this way. And yes, Black people did. We're the reason why America has been saved from itself. But I'll say also the Democratic Party should be doing more, hiring more consultants all across the board, making sure that they're not just hiring all white, all big firm consultants, people like yourself, people like me, people that do this and have done this, actually hire people who know how to message to people. They don't do that. So that's something we can learn from, hopefully have the chance to learn from in this. But then we need to also, there does need to be, the message shouldn't be like Medicare for all, but there does need to be some type of, I think, messaging that we agree that this is what we're going to do. We're going to hold, it's not going to be controversial to say we're holding pharmaceutical companies accountable to make sure that's more affordable for people. Like, I don't understand. There are some basic things we ought to be able to say.
You can't say that if pharmaceuticals are funding your campaign.
There you go. And therein lies the issue. Like, you have to have some conviction for what you stand for, because that's the problem with some of the Democratic Party. Not that we have to take this position. Defund the police is the wrong way probably to frame it, but everybody can take the stance that we want to make sure police are accountable and that they police in the community in the way that's inclusive. Like, we have to be able to have some tenets of things that we're talking about while we have this big tent, because you know what the other side does? They also have, they're not as diverse, but they got these three unholy tenets, I guess. They got white supremacists in there, they got business tax cuts people in there, and they got evangelicals. And every single Republican has something where they don't talk exactly like that, but they rhyme with it. So we also can't have this point of view where no one understands the basic tenets of what we're fighting for. So fighting for some basic things, and I'm not saying we have to agree to every single policy, but we ought to be able to frame our convictions in a way that people understand what the hell it is we're fighting for. Because if we pick up the presidency in this way, which we're going to, and we should hopefully get the Senate, but I think we could have picked up more of the Senate and not lost as much of the House. This is the first time this is happening.
How? No. How? Okay, here's the deal.
What do you mean?
No. Here's the deal. Okay, I picked up more of the Senate. Where? What seats?
What's that? I think with the right messaging, we could have won North Carolina, because you lose 20% of Black North Carolina.
No. North Carolina was less than 100,000. It's not messaging's fault that dumbass was sexting with a woman in California.
Yeah, well, my point is...
No, seriously, no. I went through the whole deal. Cal Cunningham was polling very well. Cal Cunningham... First of all, polling across the board was all wrong.
I'm about to say the polling was off.
No, but here's the deal, though. But Cal Cunningham gave Tillis an opening to hit him on moral failings in the final 2.5, 3 weeks because he was sexting with a woman in California. You can't control that. Now, here's the problem, okay? I hear all what you said. Democrats picked up Arizona. They picked up, and I know my Philadelphia guests right there, tell them I'm coming to them in 3 minutes. They picked up Arizona. They picked up Colorado. Yep. The only real seat, the only other 2 seats you really had a shot at was Maine and North Carolina. Here were the other seats. Here were the other seats. Kansas, deep red. And the Democratic candidate was a former Republican. Texas, Hagar, a former Republican who was a Democrat. Kentucky, Amy McGrath sucked.
No, we never had any shot. I'm talking about Maine and I'm talking about North Carolina.
But here's the deal, though. So follow me here. Democrats had a shot to pick up 4 seats. You got half. I mean, and again, you couldn't control Cunningham's penis or his fingers. So the problem here is.
I don't think it lost.
So the problem here is
Biden lost.
You really didn't have pickups there. And look, Sarah Gideon was the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Maine. But she also was running against a popular woman, even though polling numbers showed her down. Here's what happened. What happened was there was significant split ticketing there in Maine. Folks say we'll go with Biden, but we like Collins. I just think that because I've been battling these white progressives, Michael, over the last 3 days, who are like, oh my God, the world is ended. Yeah, we won the White House, but we lost the Senate. We lost seats in the House. We lost state races. As if there was not a massive coalescing around Trump. Look at Texas. Biden lost to Trump by 800,000 votes in Texas. Hagar lost to Cornyn by 1 million. So the map, Michael, is actually better for Democrats in the Senate in 2022 because they're going to be in states where you have a better chance. And guess what? Out of all the states where I mentioned, where Democrats had the best shot at winning, only one of them had got a significant population of black people, North Carolina. Ain't no black people in Maine, so white progressives, that's on y'all. Ain't no black people in Iowa, so white folks, that's on y'all. So that's what I'm saying. Michael, go ahead.
Well, I think Democrats panicked. And I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I think they panicked too quickly because it could very well end up 50-50, a 50-50 split in the Senate, with Madam Vice President Kamala Harris getting the deciding vote.
And I told them white progressives, shut the hell up and focus on Georgia.
Exactly. Let's focus on Georgia.
But the reason they can't focus on Georgia, because they love shitting on black folks in the South. Okay, y'all don't want they want me to go there. Michael, finish your point. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, speaking of sugar honey iced tea in the South, Mike Espy in Mississippi. Do you think if the Democratic Party had invested earlier?
No. Here's why.
For a ground game.
No, here's what.
Not TV commercials.
No. Here's why. Here's why. Here's your deal. This is very simple. We saw the strategy from the 1960s, SNCC and CORE. Philadelphia, I'm coming to y'all literally in 60 seconds. The strategy was in SNCC, CORE in the 1960s. We just saw the strategy work in Virginia. We saw what Stacey Abrams and others did in Georgia. We saw what Reverend William Barber and others did in North Carolina. You got to commit to a 6 to 10 year ground game.
Long term.
It ain't gonna work in 6 months. You got to go in and till the soil, and you got to sit here and work the land in order to reap the benefits of crops. It ain't gonna happen.
That's my point.
Long
term.
So
Democrats don't do long term,
which means you can't do it through parties. Which Georgia, it was done through a separate group who was fixated on that.
I agree.
They had nothing to do with a party. That's what I mean. Let's go to Philadelphia, y'all. Join me right now. Let me bring in my Philadelphia guest. My apologies, y'all, as I was holding y'all. Joining us right now is Jake Wheatley, Representative Jake Wheatley out of Pittsburgh with the Black Caucus there. Also, former mayor of Philadelphia, Michael Nutter. First of all, I just want to get both of y'all's thought on what I just laid out in terms of what is required to really flip these states. And I just think you got to let folk from that state be in charge of organizing and building and breaking down the deal. Look, people talk all the time, Mayor, about Philadelphia, but the reality is y'all got a right-wing legislature. And the only way you're going to break them down, your Supreme Court is tied 4-4. The only way you're going to break that thing down is you got to sit down and look at that map and see where the people are, and see where the disaffected people are, and see where the poor white people are, and see where the black people are, Latinos. Let me tell you something. Joe Biden, the black numbers killed it in Pennsylvania, but the Latino numbers did it as well. But you got to build that. It ain't gonna just happen during the election year.
No question. Roland, great seeing you, and Rep. Wheatley, always good to be with you. You know, I was listening to your discussion with the panel just before us, and I continue to be concerned about my party that we have these purity tests at times.
Yep.
Not a test that you take, but that for some in our party. To welcome people in, they have to be 100% on every issue all the time. And I think in many ways, that's just not realistic. We want people to win and win their district and get reelected and deal with their folks. That may mean that they can't always be with the rest of the group on each and every issue. got to give folks some flexibility. As the representative knows, I mean, I was a city councilman. Now, being in city council in Philadelphia is a whole lot different than being a rep in Harrisburg, because they have real Republicans up there. Ideology, Republicans. You know, in Philadelphia, a Republican might have been a Democrat who just couldn't get elected in, you know, where they are. And so, you know, if we're going to have this big tent, if we're going to be anywhere from, you know, a conservative Democrat to the most progressive Democrat, then welcome everybody in, but let's win and then have the luxury of fighting about different positions. And sometimes we knock people out of the box before they even get to the point of being successful.
Well, you're absolutely right. Representative Wheatley, first of all, glad to have you here. Had they told me you were wearing that shirt, you would have been a phoner instead of on video. But I allow a few Omegas to come on my show. We're watching this vicious attack on Pennsylvania. You got Republicans who are sitting there saying we should call Republicans out to surround Philadelphia. I'm like, don't get y'all ass whooped, you know. But you're right. I wouldn't recommend that, because we saw what happened when the Trump folks tried to have a campaign rally in Chicago. Trump never spoke. But Representative Wheatley, the issue here is that the thuggish behavior, the desperate to intimidate, but now to try to use the Supreme Court to overturn the state Supreme Court, because the Republicans in Pennsylvania are mad. They still mad at the state Supreme Court over the gerrymandering decision.
Right. Well, first of all, Roland, thank you for having me on here. I was listening earlier, and we would invite you to come to Pennsylvania, and we definitely will love to have you in the western side of the state in Allegheny County. And to Michael, it was always a pleasure to see you. And I want to say thank you for what you all have done in Philadelphia this time around. Roland, our Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, was on earlier, and he talked about this whole there have been twice challenges in the Supreme Court where the federal Supreme Court has decided not to get involved with these petty challenges that we're seeing the Republicans throw at us. And we are totally prepared to defend what we know has been a very righteous, very fair, transparent election. And it's historic in nature. And as you can tell, there's I think Carver once said, Pennsylvania is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Alabama in between. But actually in this election cycle, you're seeing that even that has changed, because like you talked about before, the demographics are starting to change. And I think what we're trying to do and what we think can be done is if we continue to work, and as you talked about, on the ground, have authentic people from far left to the middle to those all in between, continue to work together, we will continue to see that this state can be and will be blue into the future. So I'm just very excited about what's happening right now across the country, but definitely what's happening in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
It is a battle that we're seeing going back and forth, back and forth. What do we look like as of right now in Pennsylvania? I was just looking on here. I think Joe Biden has expanded his lead in Pennsylvania. Right. As with these votes. I understand that these mail-in votes are from Democratic strongholds, and that if it keeps being a split of 65-35, 70-30, there's no way in the world for Donald Trump to catch up. Pennsylvania's 20 electoral college votes will go to Joe Biden, guaranteeing that he's the next president of the United States.
Right.
Roland,
I'm sorry.
The Biden lead, Vice President Biden's lead, is going to continue to expand. The bulk of those votes, as Representative Wheatley knows, they're split primarily between Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, a couple other places in Pennsylvania. Philly overwhelmingly voted for Vice President Biden, and we had exponential growth, of course, in mail-in ballots as compared to even the primary. And so our hope, of course, is maybe things get wrapped up. I'm not down there. I'm not counting. But the folks have done a tremendous job. 359,000 mail-in ballots, and I think they're down into just the thousands now, trying to wrap this up. Maybe they get done over the weekend, beginning of the week. But I think that you're going to end up seeing, 30, 40,000 margin, more than likely, when the counting is done. As the representative said, it's been done right. It's been done fairly. There's no nonsense. The only nonsense is all these lawsuits that the Trump campaign keeps filing. You know, in some parts of the country, they're chanting count the votes, and in other parts of the country, they're saying stop the count. I mean, they can't even figure out what their strategy is because their leader is so confused and demented in terms of this election, and he sees it slipping away, which was the proper outcome.
Representative Wheatley, I just got this post here I'm going to pull up in a second, which, again, I love how people make assumptions. Historically, Republicans have done very well with the military, but Donald Trump has offended a whole bunch of folks in the military. Travis Akers just posted this 14 minutes ago. Allegheny County military absentee ballots just went 4-1 for Biden.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Hey, as a former active duty United States Marine who served in the first Persian Gulf War, that makes me proud to know that the men and women who are defending this country see that we need a real commander in chief in the White House. And I'm glad to be from a county where those men and women who are faithfully serving us all across this world also are serving us today with their votes. So it's very exciting what's happening right now across the country.
All right, then. Gentlemen, I certainly appreciate it. I can't wait to make my way back to Pennsylvania. We are doing some big things here with Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're certainly going to be on the move a lot in 2021, and certainly as we open this country up more, as we try to get past all the drama with COVID, we can't wait to be back on the road, and so look forward to being in your state.
Look forward to
Thanks
seeing
for having me on.
All right, thank you so very much. I want to go back to my panel here. Nyambi, again, that point I just made is critically important about military voters. Donald Trump, Republicans have always thought, yo, we can lock and load. We got them. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to tell you who the person is. It's a prominent individual, but this person, military person, daughter's in the military. Daughter told him those comments that Trump made about losers and the fact that General John Kelly never refuted the story, that story went through the military and they were all paying attention, that four-star general never came out and said Trump never said that.
Well, look, I think people always assume that the military is white, male, and conservative. And maybe that used to be true, but we know it's increasingly a number of troops of color. But also, when you have a president who is supposed to be of the party that understands and supports our troops and in part, this language over disrespecting the flag by kneeling was about our service men and women. But of course, this Donald Trump person doesn't respect the military. He's called them suckers. He went after John McCain and said he was a loser and he had gotten caught. And, he even in the last debate mentioned some pretty disparaging things about Joe Biden's son, who was also served in the military. So Donald Trump doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about anyone. And I think military personnel also understand the danger that he puts them in when he makes these reckless statements internationally, right? The fact that there were conversations about bounties being put on the heads of American soldiers, and you had a president who didn't say a mumbling word about that. Military people are not stupid people in the way that Donald Trump thinks that they are. And so, I'm happy to hear and happy to see that they did not reward him with for his recklessness and his dangerousness. I mean, he's playing with their lives quite literally. And so I'm happy to see that they have broken this sort of assumed loyalty to the Republican Party and to Donald Trump more generally.
That's the thing. Rob, Trump is sitting here. He is begging, hoping, and pleading that those military ballots make the difference in Georgia. Ain't necessarily guaranteed.
No, look, he's not going to catch up. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be the next president and vice president of the United States. Trump is he's like I said, he's a great marketer, but he's also can't get out of his own way. And so he just has to keep doing what he's doing. And it's worked for him until it hasn't. I do want to go back to a point I said, because I want to make a point of clarification, because I saw the mayor on, and I just want to make this clear about what I am saying. The best messaging of this whole campaign was done by Republicans in the Lincoln Project. So when I say us having a message, I don't mean us having a carbon copy message that we have to say the exact same things and take the exact same positions, but we do need to be able to articulate our message and be able to do so effectively. And we haven't been able to do that. And I do think we can do that better. And I don't think we should get away from making sure we do that better, because we're not going to always be able to depend upon having like the greatest communicator like a Barack Obama or having the worst president in the history of the world to win elections. We need to be able to win close elections that are normal too. And that's what I'm also concerned about, the long-term planning and strategy that I don't think Democrats have invested in. They haven't invested in their base the way they need to. And we need to do that. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's what I hope we do.
But here's the deal, though, Michael. I was looking at Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She pushed back on that political story we were talking about, and she said something that was a really great thread. She said that what she did was she went back and looked at those candidates, and what she said is many of those candidates were horrible with digital strategy. She said, I'm going to read it right here. Finally found it. There are folks running around on TV blaming progressivism for Dem underperformance. I was curious, so I decided to open the hood on struggling campaigns of candidates who are blaming progressives for their problems. Almost all had awful execution on digital during a pandemic, capitalized. Underinvestment across the board. Some campaigns spent $0 on digital the week before the election. Others who spent did so in very poor ways. If I spent only $12,000 on TV the week before an election and then blame others after, you would ask questions. That's how it looks seeing this. Ideology and messaging are the spicy convos a lot of people jump to, but sometimes it's about execution and technical capacity. Digital execution was not good. Polls were off. Ironically, DCCC banned the firms who are the best in the country at Facebook because they work with progressives. Then she said also the decision to stop knocking doors is one people need to grapple with and analyze. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib never stopped and may very well have helped deliver a Biden presidency because of it. Then she says there are swing seat Dem incumbents who co-sponsored the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, etc. And if I'm not mistaken, every single one won re-election. So the whole progressivism is bad argument just doesn't have any compelling evidence that I've seen. When it comes to defund and socialism attacks, people need to realize these are racial resentment attacks. You're not going to make that go away. You can make it less effective. How do you make it less effective? Invest in year-round deep canvassing. Data shows that this kind of work helps blunt the force of racial resentment at the polls. If you're always running away from convos about race and the only people owning it are GOP, you lose. And on this hand-wringing about slight people of color increase for GOP in some areas, this is also an area with answers. But honestly, when it comes to Latinos, the parties just never seriously made an effort. Mexicans, Central American, Caribbean, Chicanos, Cubans are not the only important community. By the way, if white communities are getting more comfortable with overt racism or cultural resentment, if that's what they're rebranding it now, it's only going to get harder for people of color turnout to save everyone. And I just want to, she did say this here about Mark Kelly. She said here, in light of, here's the deal, Mark Kelly, she said, it's not an accident that Kelly spent by far the most on Facebook out of Senate challengers the week before the election and was one of the main breakthroughs. Hickenlooper had solid digital too. It's not the only factor, yet a big lost opportunity for some, treated like TV. Here's why that's all important right there. But here's the deal, Michael. Because first of all,
it's true.
That's a smart-ass woman.
Yes.
Folks got to stop. Donald Trump, you try to play her small. AOC is smart as hell. But the thing here, Michael, that's most important, that what you just saw AOC lay out.
Right.
And I'm going to be frank. I need everybody who's watching to listen and listening to the podcast and listen to what I'm about to say. White consultants have gotten rich on the Democrat and the Republican side, and Rob can co-sign this because he ran for office, because they make their money from the media buys. So if you have $10 million to spend on media, They want you to spend as much money as possible on TV.
All of it.
Why?
And they're wrong.
Because they get 15%.
Yep.
Y'all, I need y'all to hear what I just said. That means if your budget is $1 million to spend media, they want you to spend the whole $1 million on TV because they get $150,000.
Yep.
They don't get 15% on digital.
And they don't even know where it's going. It's not
No.
even targeted. That's the problem.
There you go.
You don't even know where it's going to go.
It's just run it on the local station. Hopefully they gonna watch.
Yep.
Right. You
Michael, that's the piece. They don't want to deal with that. And so for these people who are complaining, like AOC said, maybe your ass just ran awful campaigns.
Right. I think she really hit on something there with the digital strategy. And because she's younger, she understands social media. And this is part of the reason why she's so popular, because she can go on social media and really connect with her constituents and people even outside of her district, people all across the country. There were reports earlier in the campaign about how the Trump campaign was doing more targeting using Facebook, using social media than the Biden campaign was earlier. And that may not have been the same late in the campaign, maybe not the last month or 2 months, but there was some talk about that. So we have to understand, and also during the other thing is during the pandemic is part of it, but people consume media differently than they did in 1973 when Mayor Coleman Alexander Young was elected mayor of Detroit. And today is the anniversary, November 6th. 1973 is the anniversary of Mayor Coleman Alexander Young being elected as the first black mayor of Detroit. I just want to say that. But we have to understand how things change, and you have to understand how to run your campaign based upon the landscape and what's available, the tools that are available right now. When she talked about defund the police, for some, well, first of all, I've said this before, the terminology is wrong. You should talk about reducing responsibility and reallocating resources. I understand the sentiment from some people, but for some people's districts, that don't play well, okay? But other people's districts, it does play well. But I think what she said is something extremely important. But a lot of these campaigns also have to bring on, and this is something that we really have to push. And I told my listeners last night on my show, this has to be a thorough reconstruction, brother. These next 4 years, especially the first two, because we don't know if we're going to maintain the House in the 2022 midterm election. This has to be a third reconstruction where as many policies as we negotiated and were promised to us, we get pushed through the House and the Senate and signed into law. The 192 executive orders that Donald Trump signed into the law, most of those need to be reversed. But the other thing is the contracts for African-American consulting firms and money going to black media, things like that. That has to be rammed through, just like Republicans rammed through Amy Coney Barrett 9 days before the presidential election.
Great point. Folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll deconstruct Bob Johnson's appearance on CNBC. I just want y'all to understand the facts about black folks, Democratic Party, Republican Party in the future. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
There are so many things that have happened that if we don't see them for what they are, this is just going to continue to, get out of control. If I don't actually say, hey, I'm going to commit to registering 10 people to vote. Right. And that's the thing, I think, is we get so hung up on the big picture. Mm-hmm. The big picture matters, but it only matters when we all do small things. Right. That's how it happens. It's not, hey, let's just post on Twitter and post on Instagram, because yes, social media is huge, we know it, but we have to actually get out there and walk the walk.
The numbers prove it. Millennials are the largest group in America. They're now larger than baby boomers. And if you don't use your power, they will run you over.
Completely. And I think that's why what we're seeing so much, especially when you look at who's controlling the country and how the country is being controlled, it is because the powers that be and those that know how the system works are taking advantage of the system for their own interests. So part of it when it comes to this millennial generation is education. You got to understand why it's so important, understand what's really at stake. So the things that you're seeing, that they may be seeing right now that make you angry, here's how you can affect change. And what I love is that what you're seeing, what's coming out of Parkland, is these younger group, of millennials becoming much more politically savvy, much more politically activated and organized.
Right.
Organization is key. It's like, an ant by itself can't do anything, but ants working together, can do things well beyond their own capacity. And I think the same thing goes for this younger generation to become united and activized on what's happening. And what I love what you're seeing right now is that when you look at a Taylor Swift, right, or you look at a Rihanna, or you look at those like a Kerry Washington, this generation, which gets so much inspiration from entertainment, this generation is influenced. I mean, every generation has their influence.
Yep.
But I would argue, by and large, when you talk about Harry Belafonte, or you talk about, how it was, in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s, there was, you had the entertainers, you had the church, you had the activists. In our day and time, the church is somewhat losing its influence. Entertainment influence is growing. The activists are losing their influence. So where do most, this younger generation go? They go to entertainment. And so the influencers in entertainment can actually move the needle. And when you see people become active, I love how this younger group of people are saying, wait a minute, we don't like what just happened with Kavanaugh. We're going to do something about it. We don't like the fact that there's no gun control. We're going to do something about it. And I do think that as tragic as these events are, they are becoming more galvanizing to get this younger group of voters, which is so influential, to get out and do what we know they can do, which is to help move the needle in a massive way.
All right, folks, let's talk a little deconstruction here. Bob Jonson, founder of BET, was on CNBC today talking about black voters in the election. Listen to what was said.
Well, I'm still bullish on the president's agenda. I mean, if you think about it, for African Americans under Trump's leadership, we had the lowest unemployment rate for Black Americans in over 50 years, almost since they've been keeping statistics on it. We also saw investments in Black businesses and Black communities through the opportunity zones.
So you think that's how people were voting? Because
Stop. Okay, so listen, I want y'all, we're going to start and stop. So here's the deal. First, Black unemployment rate was 16.9% at one point in 2010. By the time President Barack Obama left in 2017, it was 7.5. Trump comes in at 7.5. It goes down to around 5.1 in November of 2019. Then it begins to trend back up. What's the unemployment rate today among Black people? About 14%. So if you examine the 4 years of Trump, economically, it has not been good for Black people. He also talked about seeing record investment in Black communities through the opportunity zones. Sorry, Bob, I have no data. The White House released a report on the opportunity zones. I have it. There's nothing listed in it about that investment. They've said $10, $11 billion. Trump has said on the campaign trail, $100 billion invested. There's no documentation. And then there's nothing that says specifically what was invested in African American communities. Nothing, zero. I've asked. I specifically sent emails to the White House asking for that very information. No one has provided it. So to say that there's investment in the Black community through the opportunity zones, that's simply not true. And if it is, Bob, please show us the data. Press play.
and was actually working for them.
I also think Black Americans were somewhat lackadaisical about, to say the least, about their support for Joe Biden and by extension, the Democrats' policy. I think Black Americans are getting a little bit tired of delivering huge votes for the Democrats and seeing minimal return in terms of economic wealth, closing the wealth gap, jobs creation, job opportunities. And Joe Biden was not an inspiring candidate for many Black Americans. And some of them stayed home, some of them voted for Trump. To me, the issue for the president now is, well, obviously he's got to win. And the challenge is going to be overcoming the mail-in ballots that are still to be counted. The difference.
Okay, so Bob Johnson talked about being bullish on African Americans. First of all, numbers don't lie. Black people delivered the election for Joe Biden. We saw massive turnout across the country. So that's actually not true. Now, you can say people weren't excited about Joe Biden. Who did they vote for? At the end of the day, votes matter. That's one. Two, when he said he's bullish on Trump's economic agenda, but who is it actually helping? Bob has been a billionaire, came off the list when he got divorced from Sheila Johnson, had to split their money half and half. But who's it actually benefiting? If you really want to talk about Trump's economic policies, who's it benefiting? Is it benefiting the top 1% that Bob Johnson's in? Yes. Now, here's the deal. I was texting Bob Johnson earlier today, told him I was going to be doing this, invited him to come on the show to share these thoughts. He didn't. But the reality is this here, Bob. What you're laying out is it's not like Trump's economics plan aren't all of a sudden just so great and wonderful. Now, are black people wanting more from the Democratic Party? Hell yes. Absolutely. Do we deserve more? Absolutely. But if you show me where do we get more under Democrat or under Donald Trump, Bob, I'm gonna have to go with the Democrat. You know why? Because when I look at the numbers, Bob, the greatest actually opportunity for African Americans economically was under a Democrat, Bill Clinton. Yep. Yeah, that's true. When you look at the numbers, the per capita numbers, when you look at the percentage of the people who were actually working, yep. Black home ownership, yep. All that. Democratic president. So to somehow suggest that black people have not benefited economically under a Democratic president is just simply false. In fact, the economy has performed better under Democratic presidents in the last 30 years than Republican. I know facts are a little rough. Press play.
Is between black America and white America. If I've got money, white American can suffer a catastrophic loss of, say, the roof being blown off, and having $170,000, they can fix it. A black family with $17,000, if all of a sudden they have a catastrophic event in their house or in their appliances that they need to, keep food in the refrigerator and it breaks down, $3,000, $4,000 refrigerator is a emotional impact on a black family who has no access to capital to solve that catastrophic challenge. So to me, what I look for progressive and liberals is to say, look, what do black Americans really need? It's capital, access to opportunity that gives them a chance to deliver all that they want out of the American dream. Nobody speaks to that. They speak to voter suppression, yes. They speak to police brutality. All these things are valid. But America is a capitalist nation, and in a capitalist nation, value is measured by your access to opportunity and the right to compete and achieve. And that's what.
Okay, so allow me to unpack that. First and foremost, I've made the point to African Americans on this show and forums. I did so when I was in Indianapolis at the State of Black America deal that was put on there by the Stewart brothers, that African Americans should be making economics one of our top issues. That what he said, the issues that we put in front, we don't. I said we should do that, but he said we should be talking about access to capital and opportunities. Did y'all realize that under President Obama and Joe Biden, those 8 years, that the federal government recorded the percentage of minority contracts around 23%? That was the goal set. They exceeded that. Remember in the Trump's plan, he mentioned the $500 million. That's really the federal contracting program. Ice Cube kept saying he got Trump to commit to $500 billion for black people. No, he didn't. The $500 billion was really the federal contracting program. In that program, before Trump, they exceeded 23%. Guess what happened when Trump became president, y'all? They stopped recording the data. So the reality is right now, we don't even know the percentages that minorities are getting in federal contracting because Donald Trump and his people absolutely refuse to even share the information. Joe Biden said Bob Johnson said there was no plan for Joe Biden, an economic plan dealing with African Americans. Go to my iPad. This literally is the plan. It was released in May of 2020. It's called Lift Every Voice, the Biden Plan for Black America. If you go through this plan, I mean, like literally, if you go through it, advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth and income gaps. It lays it out right there. When you go through this particular plan, help families buy their first homes, tackle racial bias that leads to homes and communities of color being assessed by appraisers below fair value, roll back Trump administration policies gutting fair lending and fair housing protections, give local officials the tools and resources they need to combat gentrification. I mean, you can go strengthen and expand the Community Reimbursement Act to ensure that our nation's banks and non-bank financial service institutions are serving all communities. Establish a $100 billion affordable housing fund to construct and upgrade affordable housing. It goes promote more equitable wealth building and a more secure retirement, equalize the tax benefits of defined contribution plans. I mean, this thing goes on and on, expand access to higher quality education, tackle racial inequity in our education system. It's 22 pages. Donald Trump's plan, y'all, was literally 2. It was really 1. It had a cover sheet and was 1. So to say there's no plan, that's simply not true. Also, by the way, housing dropped to its lowest level since 1968 under Trump, 40.9% in 2019. Have y'all seen Trump's housing plan? I haven't. Press play.
What the black community, in my opinion, wants to hear.
Bob, do you think that 4 more years of Donald Trump is a good thing for the black community?
I'll put it this way. Based on if you take the past 4 years, the answer would be yes. If you take the notion that Trump focuses on building the economy, building manufacturing, creating more jobs, then the answer again is yes.
Come on, right there. Moody Analytics did an analysis of Trump's economic plan and Biden's economic plan. It said that Biden's economic plan would produce 7 million more jobs than Trump's economic plan. 7 million more. Donald Trump promised, what, 3 million new black jobs? Y'all, we lost more black jobs because of COVID. So please explain to me how you're going to bring those jobs back. Especially when upwards of 50% of black businesses went out of business because of COVID-19. Press play.
And so to me, I'm not fearful that a Trump reelection is going to be an assault on the political, cultural, social rights of black Americans.
Stop right there. In fact, I want y'all to rewind that. I want you to go back to that part right there. I want you to bring it right back. I need everybody listen to what he just said. And let me know when y'all ready to play and go ahead and press play.
Re-election is going to be an assault on the political, cultural, social rights of black Americans.
Stop. He said he wasn't worried, in his opinion, that Donald Trump winning the next 4 years would not be an assault on the political, social, cultural, and economic rights of black people. If you got almost $1 billion, you don't care about the federal court system. If you got that kind of money, you're not worried about the use of federal private prisons. You're not worried about no police consent decrees. You're not worried about U.S. attorneys charging to the high extent for weed and other marijuana laws, Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr. Let me also help y'all out. Not only the federal contracting decreased for black and minority businesses, the Trump administration went back to bundling large contracts, which meant that you were a small firm, you couldn't compete for those large contracts. How in the world? He said, I want y'all to roll that back one more time. Because y'all, he said the political, social, cultural. Go ahead and roll it back, hit play.
Then the answer again is yes. And so to me, I'm not fearful that a Trump reelection is going to be an assault on the political, cultural, social rights of black Americans.
Come and stop. The Trump administration is leading voter suppression. Republicans refuse to vote on the John Lewis bill to fix the Voting Rights Act. That's an assault on the political rights of African Americans. The Trump administration has done nothing about environmental racism. And in fact, they have allowed companies to just pollute even more so. Environmental racism affects the environment of black people. It affects our communities and our neighborhoods. Not the one Bob lives in, but the ones that our families live in. We can go through, again, Trump's court system. Trump has gutted civil rights all across the federal agencies. He's gutted diversity training. So, Bob, how could you come to the conclusion that 4 more years of Donald Trump would not somehow affect black people? If Donald Trump got 4 more years, he would be able to appoint 200 more federal judges. There are only 900. He will appoint half of the federal judiciary in America. These will be people 30 to 45 years old. Bob, you don't think that has an impact on black people? Press play.
It didn't show up in the past 4 years in terms of economic opportunity, And so to me, I don't see what the black community has gotten over the past 8 years of Democratic leadership, or what, as I said, Joe Biden's put on the table. I've heard things like reparations. Well, I can guarantee you that there will be no reparations bill coming out of Joe Biden's if he's elected, because it won't pass the House, it won't pass the Senate, because this country does not really believe in reparations.
Okay, see, now I'm confused. Now, this is the last point right here. I'm going to bring my panel in. I'm really confused right here. Go to my iPad for this headline. BET founder Robert Jonson calls for $14 trillion in reparations for slavery. So Robert Jonson hits Biden on reparations, but then turns right back around and says, Michael, that the votes are not there, so therefore they won't vote for reparations. So let me just get this straight. So you, Bob Johnson, have called for reparations. You're criticizing Biden because he has not embraced reparations. Yet you, Bob Johnson, then admit in the very same conversation that the votes for reparations are not there. So if you're Bob Johnson, if you're Joe Biden and the votes are not there for reparations, why would you actually include it in your plan? And then Bob Johnson says that America's not ready to go there. So why would Joe Biden put it in his plan if he knows the same thing that you know? What you heard there was, and again, I invited Bob to come on the show to discuss this. What you heard there is an African American of means who doesn't have to be concerned with any of these things down here on the ground, because he's operating financially in a world where he is completely separated and sheltered from everything else.
Yep.
Bob, when you're on private planes, you're not worrying about police brutality. When you're living with multiple houses on islands, you're not actually worried about racism by TSA, about flight attendants on planes. And so I take exception to so many things that he says because the data is simply not there to back it up. Michael, and then Niambe.
Yeah. Well, Roland, he said a lot, brother. Let's break this down very quickly here. Page 22 of Biden's plan to empower Black America, tackle systemic racism and support a study of the continuing impacts of slavery. Okay. Now, Bob Johnson is partly correct where he said the votes are not there in the House and the Senate right now, because Moscow Mitch McConnell already said if he stays Senate Majority Leader, reparations is dead on arrival in the Senate. But Donald Trump is against reparations. This is what I don't understand. Donald Trump is against reparations, Donald Trump doesn't even want support HR 40. Okay. Then we look at African American owned businesses. Forbes.com had the article back in August dealing with how 41% of black owned businesses have gone out of business since April of this year because of the coronavirus economy. Is probably at least 50% now. When we look at opportunity zones, you posted the article also, Roland, Trump's unsupported claim about opportunity zone investments on factcheck.org. You posted that a few weeks ago.
Totally unsupported.
It's not only is it totally unsupported, when you actually read this, the $100 billion that Trump is throwing around as an investment, that's over the course of through 2028. That's through the year 2028. But that's $100 billion.
And that's not even real. That's not even real investment. That's what we think might happen.
Exactly. That's what we think. That's what we think might happen. Okay. And then you look at the article from October 23rd, 2020 from NBCnews.com. Trump is touting opportunity zones as a huge success with no proof. So this doesn't make sense. Now, when you read the statements that Bob Johnson made about reparations, I read them. I read them. He talked about 14 trillion, right? When you read what he says about it, he says that will mainly go back into the economy and support black-owned businesses. Well, 97% of our dollars are spent with people that don't look like us. So what he's saying is reparations is largely going to benefit white businesses. That's what he's saying. When you go read his comments, okay? Then lastly, I'll leave it with this, brother. Bob Johnson didn't talk about the devastating impact that coronavirus has had on African Americans. When you look at just earlier this October 16, 2020, 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic, new study says. The majority of them were African Americans and Hispanics. When we look at the devastating impact that coronavirus has had, means of you still have about 25 million people unemployed, a lot of them African Americans, losing health insurance. 20% of the 236,000 deaths are African American. Notice how he doesn't even talk about the devastating impact that coronavirus has had on us. So he's totally out of touch. Okay, you know, I applaud him for taking a $500,000 investment from John C. Malone, I think it was, that invested early on in BET. Okay, and building the empire. But when you get people like this, brother, and they talk about the black community, they don't live in the black community usually. So they're totally out. But
Niambi, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't think this has anything to do with reparations or policy. I think Bob Johnson is thinking with his wallet. And quite frankly, most people, black or otherwise, don't have access to the level of wealth and the level of insulation that Bob Johnson has. And I'll pick up on a bead that Michael was talking about with the coronavirus. One of the things besides the dead, we don't know what's going to happen to the long-term coronavirus injured, many of whom are black and brown people, and we don't know what their health outcomes are going to look like, much less whether they can get employed again if they are able to maintain or have employment. So I think Bob Johnson here is talking in circles. What he wants to say is, Donald Trump is good for me financially, and I like him. And this has nothing to do with other black people.
And that's what, and that's it. And that's what Bob should really just say. It's good for me. It's good for me as a rich guy. It really ain't about us. Folks, I certainly appreciate y'all being on the show. Rob had to go. Niambi, Michael, thank you so very much for joining us on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Folks, don't forget it. If you want to support what we do here, Roland Martin Unfiltered, breaking things down like this, please, because y'all see the CNBC anchor. She couldn't break any of that stuff I just laid out because she ain't know none of it. That's why these shows matter. Support us on Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, please. Of course, you can also go to paypal.com/R Martin Unfiltered. Drop the lower third, please. And Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. You were a little slow with it. Then, of course, you can mail a money order to New Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. All right, folks, we're going to keep y'all up to date on what's happening with the election. Here we go to my iPad here. Look, here's the deal. Donald Trump is trying to get them to stop the balloting there in Pennsylvania. Here's the deal, y'all. Real simple. Even if you look at Georgia, look at the map right here. If Joe Biden keeps his lead in Arizona, he has it in Nevada as well, he doesn't need Pennsylvania, North Carolina, or Georgia. He'll be sitting at 281 Electoral College votes. Simple as that. We'll keep you abreast. Y'all have a great weekend. Hi!